Heartwarming jokes calmed a boy. What this millionaire CEO revealed changed everything forever. In a little Midwestern town where the summer sun beats down like a hopeful heart and whispers secrets through the rustling leaves, a 10-year-old boy named Ben sat on the worn steps of his front porch, anxiously tapping his foot. Laughter floated from the neighborhood kids, sharp and taunting, like daggers piercing his chest. He could barely imagine what life would be like if he didn't stand out in a crowd, a lone figure dressed in hand-me-downs and clinging to the shadows. The struggles at home felt heavy, his single mother juggling 3 jobs while his stomach growled louder than any laughter. But there, amid the pain, stood his grandfather, a pillar of love and warmth. "Ben," his grandfather would say, eyes twinkling with mischief, "did you hear about the claustrophobic astronaut? He just needed a little space." The joke would pull Ben from the brink, laughing until the tightness in his chest eased. Their shared giggles echoed the resilient spirit of their town, where hearts intertwined like armory against the world. The annual town fair was the highlight of their year. It shimmered with bright lights, sweet aromas, and laughter, a beacon of hope against a backdrop of struggles. Ben's heart danced as he and his grandfather wandered through booths, inhaling the scent of funnel cakes and stepping on the creaky wooden boards of the carnival rides. Everyone came alive at the fair, sharing joy, stories, and laughter, a reminder that they were stronger together. But this fair, something extraordinary happened. As Ben marveled at a group of kids bouncing on a trampoline, he bumped into Jake, a charismatic CEO clad in a crisp suit, whose presence lit up the space around him. At first, Ben felt a chasm between their worlds. Jake seemed to glide above struggles in a world of glitz. They exchanged awkward pleasantries until Jake broke the ice. "Why don't scientists trust atoms?" he asked with a sly grin. "Because they make up everything." The spontaneous laughter danced in the air, swirling around them like summer fireflies. Ben felt a spark ignite inside him. He and Jake began exchanging jokes, building a bridge between their disparate worlds, revealing that beneath the surface shone the essence of kindness and resilience. Jake shared tales of his own humble upbringing. Ben listened, inspired by the journey this man had taken. He wasn't just a millionaire but a dreamer like him. But soon, as if a storm cloud had rolled in amidst the laughter, news spread. A powerful corporation threatened to close down the local market, a cornerstone of Ben's community, where families gathered and connected. Anger bubbled up within them, stoking their fears of vulnerability. As tension mounted, the townsfolk came together, igniting a fire of determination. Ben found himself standing before a restless crowd, his heart thumping like a drum. "Friends," he began, voice trembling. "We're all in this together." He shared his story with emotion, weaving jokes that turned outrage into unity. His words soared as laughter erupted, echoing through the crowd, lifting spirits higher and turning anxiety into strength. At the rally's peak, Jake stood beside him, vowing to fight for their community, his promise thick with sincerity. Yet, as the cheers faded into the night, uncertainty crept into Ben's heart. Would Jake's commitment last? Would their laughter be enough to change everything? Hope hung in the air like unpicked fruit, aching for resolution. The next day dawned with a heavy blanket of tension hanging over the town, as if the sky itself sensed the brewing storm. Ben woke up to the familiar sounds of his mother moving around the kitchen, the clattering of pots and pans mixing with the scent of burnt toast. He sat up and took a moment to breathe, recalling the energy from the rally. Jake's words echoed in his mind. "We're all in this together." Yet that morning, doubt gnawed at him like a hungry ghost. Would the town really rally? Could laughter and shared stories overcome the looming threat of corporate greed? The comforting presence of his grandfather was missed, and Ben found himself wishing he could just share his worries like they used to do over bowls of cereal. At school, the chatter amongst his classmates shifted to hushed murmurs. The weight of what was happening magnified each joke and giggle, turning the hallways into a tightrope of unease. Ben sat at the lunch table with his friends, feeling their glances dart toward him as if they were waiting for reassurance. "Hey, Ben," one of his friends said, trying to break the tension. "Got any new jokes?" Ben forced a smile, feeling as if he were piecing together a mask to hide the storm inside. Why did the bicycle fall over? Because it was too tired. Laughter erupted, momentarily piercing through the heaviness, but it didn't fill the spaces the fear left behind. That night, Ben sat quietly on his porch again, staring into the warm glow of the streetlights. Out of the blue, he heard footsteps approaching. "Do you mind if I join you?" It was Jake, still in his suit, but his demeanor was noticeably different. He seemed more human, less polished, a man fighting for something bigger than his own success. Ben's heart raced, a mix of excitement and anxiety. "What's the plan, Jake? We can't just laugh our problems away." Jake took a deep breath, the streetlight casting his shadow long against the porch. "You're right. We need more than jokes. We need action." The weight of his words hung heavily, fueling the unwavering determination inside Ben. "What do we do?" Ben asked, his voice barely a whisper. Jake leaned forward, his eyes glinting with a spark of hope. "We organize a town meeting. I'll connect with the stakeholders. Together, we can show them what this community means. We need to make our voices heard." Ben's chest tightened, not only from fear but from a budding sense of responsibility. He felt a fire ignite within him. "Okay, let us do it. But it can't just be about fighting. We need laughter too. Make them see how important this place is to us." The corners of Jake's mouth twitched into a grin. "I think you're onto something, kid. Let us blend laughter with our mission. Show them we're not just a town, we're a family." As they sat there mapping plans, Ben's excitement mingled with a new kind of urgency. He could sense a shift, a rooted possibility that felt like electricity in the air. Hope began to flutter in his heart, tightening its grip. But just as they began to sketch out ideas, a commotion erupted from down the street. A group of townsfolk were gathered, shouting and waving signs, their frustration palpable. Ben's breath quickened at the sight. Would anger tear them apart or bring them together? "Let us go," Jake said, leaping to his feet. Ben followed, the pounding in his chest echoing the urgency outside. As they raced towards the noise, he couldn't shake the worry that loomed just beneath the surface, asking one haunting question: could this truly end in laughter or would it shatter everything they had? The crowd grew as Ben and Jake approached, a wave of frustration and confusion filling the air. The townsfolk held signs that cried out against the company's plans. "Save our home. And we are not for sale," fluttered in the breeze like desperate prayers. Ben felt the pulse of anger and fear all around him, alive and breathing. He looked at Jake, who nodded, his expression serious. "Now's the time," Jake said, urgency in his voice. "We need to show them we're not just a bunch of dreamers." Ben stepped forward, feeling the collective energy of the crowd. "Hey, everyone!" he called out, though his voice wavered. Eyes shifted toward him, a mix of surprise and curiosity etched on their faces. Jake stood beside him, giving him a firm nod. "Look, I know we're scared," Ben continued, his heart racing. "But we're not alone. We have each other." The words tumbled out, chasing a spark of hope within him. A murmured agreement rippled through the group, and Ben felt the warmth of their support, as if he were pulling them in with his own energy. He knew he needed to push further. "I know times are tough, but maybe we can find strength in laughter. We can fight for what matters to us and find a way to have fun doing it." Laughter erupted, surprising him. Ben grinned, feeling that initial magic return. "Let us have a town talent show," he blurted out. "A way to showcase our gifts and remind everyone what we're fighting for." The crowd buzzed with possibilities, the tension blending into excitement. People began to chatter about who could sing, who could dance, and who had a great stand-up routine. Jake smiled broadly, catching Ben's eye. This was at the moment to unite their spirits. But then, over the chatter, a voice boomed. "What makes you think this will work?" A man stepped forward, his brow furrowed, arms crossed defiantly. It was Mr. Carlson, whose family had been involved in the town's politics for generations. They're not going to listen to laughter. They don't care about talent shows. Ben's heart faltered. All he could think about was how to find a way to meet Mr. Carlson's doubt. We can show them we're more than just a place on a map. We're a community. Maybe if we make them see us laughing, sharing, caring, they won't see us as just a profit. Another murmured conversation flared, but the skepticism still lurked, rising like a dark cloud. Ben's thoughts raced. They needed someone big, someone with authority, to share their thoughts. Suddenly, he remembered. Let us reach out to the local newspaper. They could cover our talent show, share our story. It could paint the picture we need to stand tall. The crowd quieted, absorbing the idea. At that moment, Ben was struck with an urge to act fast. That's right. If we show how much we care, maybe they'll realize this town can't just be bought. Come on, let us do this together. Cheers erupted, filling the air with a renewed sense of purpose. People began brainstorming ideas, and energy surged through them. But just as Ben felt hope blooming, he spotted a familiar black car rolling slowly down the street with tinted windows. His stomach twisted in knots. No, it can't be, he whispered, his heart racing in dread. Jake noticed and turned to him. What is it? Ben swallowed hard, pointing. That's their CEO, isn't it? The car came to a halt, and the door swung open. A tall figure emerged, the confident air surrounding her like an invisible shield. Ben felt the crowd's energy shift, wary and uncertain. Would she bring promises or threats? In the fragile moment that followed, Ben realized everything was about to change. Would she listen to their laughter, or silence it forever? As the townsfolk quietly murmured, he prepared for what was coming next. What kind of truth lay behind her polished smile? Ben's breath caught in his throat as the CEO strode toward them, her heels clicking sharply on the pavement like clockwork, ringing the death knell of their hopes. The crowd quieted, the laughter and chatter fading into a tense silence that hung heavy in the air. He could sense the fear spreading like a chill among the townsfolk, their signs trembling slightly in the wind. The woman, tall and impeccably dressed, scanned the crowd with piercing blue eyes. There was something unsettling about her confidence, something that made Ben's skin crawl. He squeezed Jake's arm, needing the strength of his friend beside him. Good afternoon, she said, her voice smooth and polished, the kind that dripped like sweet syrup and left a sickly taste in his mouth. I'm Sarah Harding, CEO of Harding Industries. I received word of your little talent show idea. I must say, it's quite charming. Charming? Mr. Carlson scoffed, stepping forward. Charming won't save our homes. There was a rallying cry beneath his words, burning in the hearts of the residents. Sarah tilted her head slightly, a bemused smile playing on her lips. You misunderstand. I'm here to offer an opportunity, a chance for you to benefit from my company's expansion. What kind of opportunity? Ben managed to call out, his voice steady despite the nervous flutter in his stomach. She leaned slightly closer, her expression shifting from amused to calculated. Imagine the resources we would bring: a new community center, improved infrastructure, jobs for everyone. The words hung in the air, seducing some in the crowd. Ben felt the seeds of doubt sprouting around him. Could they really trust her? Could an offer come from someone like her, someone whose money seemed to loom larger than their homes? You think we'll just sell out? Shouted a voice from the back. Ben recognized it as Mrs. Weller, her face lit with defiance. What you're offering isn't what we need. It's not what our town stands for. The murmurs swelled into a chorus of agreement, and Ben's heart soared. The spark they had reignited was morphing into a blazing fire. Sarah raised her hands, her smile unwavering. Let us not be hasty. I simply want to discuss how we can enhance this town together. I need you to understand. We are not trying to erase your home. I want to keep the essence of your community intact. Her words felt like cotton candy, fluffy and sweet, but with no real substance. You want to keep it intact? Ben pressed. By bulldozing what we have? The tension snapped as the crowd grew agitated. We want to preserve our town. Someone shouted. Not trade it for some pretty promises. We don't need a spectacle, we need our lives. Sarah's expression hardened, a glint of frustration shimmering in her eyes. You may think you're united, but your little talent show won't stop progress. I urge you to consider this opportunity seriously. Think of the good for your families, your children. Ben's mind raced. What did progress even mean for them? Was it really the cost of their history, their identity? He felt his pulse pounding in his ears as the crowd erupted in disbelief and disapproval. Suddenly, he felt overwhelmed. Not just with fear, but anger, the kind that came bubbling up from deep within him. This was their home. How could anyone think that was simply something to trade away? Enough! He shouted, finally finding his voice. We're more than just one deal. We're not lost dreams waiting to be bought. We're people who care. The crowd roared in agreement, the sound surging like a tidal wave, and Sarah's confident mask began to crack. Ben could see it, the tension rising like smoke. This wasn't just about the talent show anymore. What was going to happen next? Would they stand firm, or would fear fracture their resolve? As the fight continued to swell around him, Ben knew he stood at the brink of something monumental. But how would they navigate this storm? The air crackled with anticipation, the world hanging in balance. The air was thick with emotion, the crowd's restlessness palpable as they surged toward the stage. Ben felt a jolt of energy, fueled by their determination. His heart raced, pounding in sync with the rising voices surrounding him. He needed to inspire them, to remind everyone why they were fighting. Look around you. He called out, raising his arms as if to embrace the very spirit of the town. These homes, these people, this is our life. We're not just some landscape to be built over, we're a community. We've lived through storms, we've celebrated triumphs, and we've laughed together. His voice broke slightly as he continued, remember the community picnics? The way the sun would hit the old oak tree just right. The laughter of children, the joy of sharing a meal. Those moments matter. We can't trade them for shiny new buildings. We're worth more than that. The crowd quieted as they hung on his words, their faces shifting from anger to contemplation. He could see glimmers of hope flickering in their eyes. He took a deep breath, then pressed on. We're not against progress, we want growth that includes us. We want to build our future without erasing our past. Sarah stood still, the bemused smile replaced by a tight set of lips. It was clear she hadn't expected this level of resistance. The crowd began chanting, our town. Our homes. Each shout full of conviction made Ben's chest swell with pride. He had ignited a fire he hoped would burn bright. But then, pressing on the urgency of the moment, Sarah interrupted, her voice steady and cold. You think these feelings will magically preserve your town? This isn't a fairy tale. Progress doesn't wait for approval. It happens, whether you like it or not. Then let it happen with us, not against us. Ben countered, stepping forward again. What if we create a partnership? Let Harding Industries invest in what we have rather than what you want to obliterate. The murmurs turned to thoughtful dialogue among the townsfolk. A few nearby nodded, their brows furrowed as they processed the implications. Ben could feel Sarah's facade cracking further. Partnering with you means maintaining the human experience, not just the economic gain. One of the townspeople shouted, gaining strength from the conversation. Sarah's composure faltered. For a fleeting moment, Ben could see doubt flicker behind her confident blue eyes. Let us say I humor your idea, Sarah said, her voice less forceful now, though still tinged with skepticism. What assurance do I have that your little talent show would be, well, successful? This is a business, after all. Maybe it's time for a meeting of the minds, suggested Jake, stepping forward, his features impassioned. We can present our talents, show you what this community really means. If we work together, maybe we can craft something you never imagined. A ripple of excitement coursed through the crowd. Could this really be a way forward? An opportunity to demonstrate their strength not just in words, but through action. Let us do this, Ben spoke up, the words shooting out before his mind could catch up. Let us show you what we can bring to the table together. As uncertainty laced with hope coursed through the crowd, Ben felt a cautious optimism swirl within him. He knew they were still standing at the edge of a cliff. But now, Sarah Harding might have to reconsider the depth and richness of the land she planned to alter. Fine, she replied, crossing her arms, her voice colder but her eyes betraying curiosity. I'll attend this talent show of yours. But if this fails to impress me, I'll be back to reclaim what I want. With her final words hanging ominously over them, Ben felt a wave of adrenaline crash over him. There was still a battle ahead, but the tide might just be turning. What would this talent show reveal? Would it be enough to save their homes or seal their fate? As the crowd erupted into a storm of chatter, one single thread held the weight of their hopes. In the pit of his stomach, Ben knew this was only the beginning. As the crowd began to buzz with excitement, Ben felt an electric thrill race through him. The stakes had shifted. There was no turning back now. The talent show wasn't just a chance to showcase their hearts but a lifeline for the town. He could already envision it, the community center filled with laughter, music, and shared stories, memories woven into performances that could light up the darkest corners of their struggle. All right, everyone. Ben called, trying to steer the bubbling energy. We need to start planning for this talent show. Let us brainstorm who can perform and what we can showcase. It's our time to shine. Hands shot up. Laughter erupted from the back row as Miss Clara, the piano teacher, shouted, I can play the piano. What about a sing-along? Count me in for the guitar, yelled Timmy, a shy boy from school, his cheeks flushing as he spoke up. I'll write a song. Ben smiled, feeling the enthusiasm wrap around him like a warm blanket. Yes, this was it, everyone had something to offer. He glanced at Sarah, who was now listening closely, her stance shifting from aloofness to intrigue. It was no longer just about faces in the crowd, it was about lives intertwined. Let us not forget the bakery, chimed in Mrs. Landry. We could have our famous pies for sale. Imagine packing the room with the smell of apple and blueberry. People won't just come for the show, they come for the experience. Absolutely. Jake agreed, bouncing on his feet. We should make it a celebration. Invite everyone from the neighboring towns. The chatter grew louder, echoing with the idea of community, of togetherness. Ben felt his pulse quicken, heart racing with the thrill of possibility. But beneath it all lingered an underlying fear: could they truly pull this off? As they laid out plans amidst laughter and excitement, Ben felt a flicker of doubt. What if this was all a fantasy? Could a talent show really express the town's worth? He feared it wouldn't be enough. But then his gaze fell on Timmy, who sat glancing nervously at a memento brightly colored flyers advertising the event that would soon adorn every storefront in town. There was something in the boy's determination, his big dreams shining through. In that moment, Ben realized it wasn't just about the show. It was about reminding themselves who they were, what they had survived, and what bound their community together. Just then, Sarah stepped up, silencing the crowd with a gentle wave of her hand. I might not fully understand your talent show, but if there's one thing I've seen today, she paused, glancing at the sea of eager faces, then back at Ben, it's that you're willing to fight for what you believe in. You've surprised me. Quiet spread over the crowd, anticipation thickening the air around them. Ben's throat tightened. Could this be the turning point? Could they move from champions of the town to collaborators with a corporation? Maybe I've been a little hasty in my views, Sarah continued slowly. Perhaps your community has potential that I didn't recognize before. A ripple of hope surged among the townsfolk. But Ben's heart raced as deeper questions loomed. If Sarah was beginning to understand, what price would their partnership come at? Would they truly preserve what made their town special, or would it all slip away in an exchange for economic growth? Just as thoughts swirled, he caught sight of the old oak tree standing strong, timeless. "We'll show you what we're capable of on that stage," he said, voice firm yet laced with uncertainty. But it's not just talent, it's heart. Ben felt the weight of their hopes and fears hang around him. As he turned to face the crowd, his heart in his throat, the question lingered, what sacrifice would they be willing to make? A moment of silence hung heavy, and then the crowd erupted once more. They were ready. But would it be enough to change everything forever? As Ben glanced at Sarah, uncertainty flickered again. Would this be the launch pad to a partnership or the opening of Pandora's box? The talent show was drawing near, and the real battle was just beginning. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of activity. The community center buzzed with preparation, laughter spilling out into the streets. Flyers plastered on every corner captured hearts, talent show, together we shine. Ben felt the energy bounce off the walls, filling his spirit. Timmy was everywhere, his song sharpening with every passing day. With every chord he strummed, Ben could see glimpses of the boy who was gaining more confidence with each rehearsal. Timmy's small fingers danced over the guitar strings, an undeniable fire burning in his eyes. Ben leaned against the wall, watching as the townspeople poured their hearts into this show. Emily was knitting small decorations, vibrant yarn winding around her fingers determining the colors that would hang proudly. The older folks recited skits from their youth, the laughter echoing like music around them. Each wrinkle on their faces held a story waiting to be told. In the midst of it all, Sarah emerged as an unlikely ally. She was hands-on, her business acumen working wonders. Together, they mapped out plans to advertise the talent show, and she suggested incorporating a thank you section highlighting local heroes. Ben watched the transformation of Sarah, the walls she had once held up starting to crumble, revealing someone willing to nurture the roots of this community. Then, without warning, a sudden announcement shook the excitement. The CEO of the big corporation, Ms. Rothschild, was coming to the show. An air of nervous anticipation blanketed the town. The talent show had shifted in Ben's mind. It was no longer just about showcasing talent, it was now about impressing a corporate giant. "She'll be seated front and center," Sarah said. "We have a chance to really make an impression here." Ben felt a knot form in his stomach. Who were they? A small town facing the behemoth of corporate existence. What if they brought the house down but it still wasn't enough? This was intense, and fear trickled in uninvited. "Ben." Timmy's voice pulled him back. "You aren't going to let this scare you, are you? We're going to shine. Together." Something about Timmy's innocent enthusiasm sparked a light within Ben. He remembered why they were doing this. It was bigger than dollars and cents. It was about heart, community, and resilience. "You're right, buddy," Ben said, feeling the weight lift just a bit. "This is our moment." The day of the show arrived, the community center buzzing with anticipation. The smell of Mrs. Landry's pies wafted through the air, and tables were set up outside where local crafts were being sold. Families poured in, faces alight with joy. Timmy stood backstage, his hands shaking. "What if she doesn't like my song?" he whispered, wide-eyed. Ben knelt down, looking him in the eye. "Just remember, it's not just about her. You're sharing a piece of yourself. Think about all the people out there who care. They believe in you." Ben's encouragement drew a small smile from Timmy, but as the clock ticked closer to showtime, anxiety gripped the crowd. A hush fell when the spotlight turned toward the stage, drawing breaths in unison. Then, it happened. The first act took the stage. Laughter erupted as Mr. Jenkins performed a stand-up routine filled with jokes about life in their town. Unbeknownst to him, he pulled the audience into a shared warmth, laughter binding them together, comfort washing over everyone like a warm blanket. But just as joy filled the space, a sudden frown darted across Sarah's face as she leaned over to Ben. "I just got a call from Ms. Rothschild's office. They want to meet before she leaves." Ben's breath caught. Was she really planning to discuss business right after the show? Or was there something more at stake? With a heart pounding louder than the laughter echoing in the background, Ben felt like they stood at the precipice of change. Would the show be a celebration of their community spirit, or would it end up tangled in the corporate web? The question lingered heavily in the air: what would they sacrifice for the future? Timmy's act was next, and all he could do was pace back and forth behind the curtain, heart racing like a drumbeat in his ears. He was so nervous that he almost missed the moment the announcer's voice boomed through the speakers, calling his name. "Next up, we have Timmy Thompson. Come on." Ben mouthed, his own stomach flipping with anticipation. Watching Timmy take the small steps onto the stage felt like witnessing a tightrope walker inching toward the other side, uncertain but determined. The stage lights washed over Timmy, revealing his small frame trembling slightly, but then he steadied himself. He clutched the microphone with both hands and scanned the audience, all the familiar faces turning into a blur. But then he locked eyes with Ben, and the warmth of that connection rekindled his courage. "Hi, everyone!" Timmy exclaimed, his voice wavering but gaining strength with each passing moment. "I want to sing a song I wrote." The audience erupted in applause, encouraging him forward. That was when the first chords of his song filled the room. The rawness of his voice was like an innocent breeze cutting through the summer heat, a breath of fresh air everyone needed. As he sang, lyrics spilling forth like his heart onto the stage, Ben felt the tension in his own stomach loosen slightly. The song was filled with hope, the kind that rang true to everyone there. Timmy poured into those notes all the dreams he had hidden inside. They were dreams of belonging, of community, and of shining brightly against the odds. Each chord struck a resonant chord within the hearts of the audience. They leaned closer, enchanted. Timmy built momentum, gaining a grip on his nerves as confidence spilled over him like sunlight breaking through clouds. After his final note hung in the air, silence stretched for a heartbeat before the applause erupted. It thundered like a summer storm, and Ben's heart swelled with pride as he watched Timmy beam, a boy transformed. "See?" Ben whispered to himself, feeling the rush of hope wash over him. Together, they really did shine. But the jubilation was short-lived. Just as Timmy stepped off the stage, eyes bright with joy, Sarah's phone buzzed again. It felt like the universe was cruelly reminding them of the corporate shadow looming over their moment. "Ms. Rothschild wants to meet after the last act, no matter what," she said, squeezing her phone tight. "This is big, Ben." Ben's heart sank. They had poured every bit of themselves into this show, and now there might be strings attached. The realization gnawed at him. Wasn't this talent show supposed to be about them, their stories, their triumph? Generations of heartfelt performances had shaped this community, but now a corporate giant threatened to squeeze the spirit out of it all. Would Ms. Rothschild see the value in heart? As the final act took the stage, an older woman singing a soulful ballad, Ben couldn't help but wonder about the conversation ahead. Would they be discussing sponsorships or numbers instead of dreams and community? The room filled with emotion, but he was weighted down, trapped between pride and uncertainty. The last note of the ballad hung heavy in the air as the audience erupted in cheers, but instead of celebrating, Ben felt stuck in a whirlwind of unanswered questions. He turned to Timmy, whose wide eyes were still gleaming with everything this moment represented. What if she doesn't care? Timmy's voice softened, but she has to, doesn't she? Otherwise, what's the point? His innocent wisdom twisted the knife deeper into Ben's conscience. The question loomed larger: what would they risk to keep their community alive in a world that often preferred numbers over hearts? As the crowd began to disperse, the excitement blending into curiosity for what lay ahead, Ben braced himself for the conversation that could change everything. Would they sacrifice their dreams for security? The future beckoned ominously, and as Ben took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown, the echoes of laughter and music flooded his senses. But he couldn't shake the feeling. What might they lose in the process of gaining a new path? The crowd began to thin, chatter and excitement mingling in the air. Timmy, still soaking in the applause, stumbled into Ben's side, his eyes glowing like stars. "Did you see that? They really liked it," he exclaimed, bouncing on his toes. "More than liked it. You crushed it," Ben replied, a smile breaking across his face. But beneath that joy, uncertainty gnawed at him. When corporate and community collided, what would be lost? Sarah stood nearby, her fingers still glued to her phone. "I need to find Ms. Rothschild," she said, the weight of her words heavy in the air. She glanced at Timmy excitedly recounting the moment to complete strangers, his passion infectious. It could mean everything. "Yeah, but at what cost?" Ben shot back, urgency lacing his voice. If they gave in to the corporate world, the essence of their community might fade. Timmy's small hand slipped into Ben's. "It's okay, right? I mean, they can help us." He looked up, innocence radiating off his beaming face. "That's what everyone wants to believe," Ben replied, kneeling down to meet Timmy's gaze. "But sometimes, help comes with a price." The two exchanged a worried look, each knowing that the promise of prosperity could easily dim the light of creativity they had just witnessed up on that stage. While Timmy's song brought everyone together, the looming prospect of money could tear them apart. "Want to grab some ice cream?" Ben said suddenly, trying to lighten the mood. "We should celebrate your performance. You deserve it. Can we get sprinkles?" Timmy chirped. His fear was momentarily replaced by childhood joy, and Ben couldn't help but chuckle. "Sprinkles it is." As they stepped out into the warm night, a chill still stirred in Ben's chest. They wandered toward their favorite ice cream shop, the golden lights twinkling like stars above them. Timmy chattered endlessly about the song and how he might write another one. "I want to write a song about our ice cream," he laughed. The innocence of his excitement was contagious, melting Ben's worries just a bit. "Maybe you can write a whole album," Ben suggested. "Yeah." That made Timmy bounce even higher. "But I want to play at the next talent show too. I want everyone to see that our dreams matter." Ben swallowed hard, hiding the doubt trying to creep back in. "Of course they do," he affirmed, though he couldn't shake off the feeling that they were standing at a crossroads. As they approached the shop, Ms. Rothschild's sleek car pulled up right across the street. The sight sent a wave of unease through Ben. She stepped out, a confident woman in a tailored suit, scanning the area like she owned the place. "I need to talk to her," Sarah's voice broke through Ben's reverie as she hurried toward the car. "Don't go anywhere, okay? We'll have ice cream after." Timmy waved at her, then turned to Ben. "Do you think she really cares about us?" The question hung heavy. Ben wanted to say yes, wanted to shield Timmy from the harsh realities of the world, but the truth felt tangled in the air between them. "Let us hope so," he replied finally, unsure if he believed it himself. As Sarah approached with cautious excitement, the atmosphere shifted. The sense of joy began to dim under the weight of uncertainty. What were they walking into? What would happen when dreams met the cold reality of business? Then it hit him, it was the moment of truth. Would they emerge victorious, or would their hopes be swallowed whole? Taking a deep breath, Ben turned to Timmy, his heart racing again. "Whatever happens, we stick together, okay?" But even as he said the words, the looming question lingered. What price would they pay for their dreams? Sarah's voice crackled with urgency as she approached the sleek figure of Ms. Rothschild, a woman poised like a hawk, surveying the landscape of Ben's cherished town. Ben watched, the air heavy with tentative hope. His pulse quickened as he turned to Timmy, both of them standing on the sidewalk like two tiny boats bobbing in a sea of uncertainty. "I don't know what she'll say, Timmy," Ben confessed, trying to read the expression in the older woman's face, "but we need to show her who we are." Timmy, ever the bright spark, nodded vigorously. "Let us make sure they see us. Let them know how much this town means to us." The confidence in his voice made Ben feel a little braver, too. The ice cream shop's lights flickered, warming the chilly night air. The scent of fresh waffle cones swirled around them, but Ben couldn't shake the tension pooling in his stomach. He wished they were celebrating, not standing on the edge of a battleground where dreams collided with unavoidable reality. As Sarah and Ms. Rothschild engaged in animated conversation, Ben found himself distracted by the laughter inside the shop. A few kids were reveling in their ice cream, their carefree chuckles echoing a reminder of the joy that once filled every corner of their small town. He glanced at Timmy, who was shifting from foot to foot, anticipation flickering like a candle in the dark. "Maybe after, we'll all have ice cream together, right?" Timmy asked, trying to bridge the gap of anxious silence. It was a simple belief, a childlike charm that Ben couldn't help but hold on to. "Sure, buddy. We'll make it happen," he replied, though doubt lingered at the back of his mind. What if this didn't go as planned? What if they lost everything? Minutes crawled as they waited, the stars twinkling above like distant thoughts unvoiced. Finally, Sarah broke away, excitement radiating from her as she approached Ben and Timmy. "All right, guys," she beamed, glancing between the two of them. "Ms. Rothschild is intrigued. She sees potential in my proposal. She believes in supporting community-driven projects, but..." Ben's heart dropped slightly. "But what?" Timmy asked, his voice trembling slightly, innocence laced with hope. "She wants to see results. We need to illustrate the impact our talent show can have on the town. If we can show a broader vision, she'll consider an investment to help the community thrive." "Investment?" Ben echoed, trying to process the weight of those words. "What's the catch?" "There isn't a catch, exactly," Sarah said, her eyes bright. "But there's a commitment we must follow through on. If we can persuade her during the upcoming meeting, we could potentially turn this town around." "But what about us? The essence of our town? Are we just going to sell out?" Ben's fear bubbled up, sharp and unyielding. Timmy, rising with determination, glanced up at Sarah. "We can show what we're capable of. We can add our style, make it our own. If they get to know us, they can't erase what we are." Ben smiled at the confidence radiating from his younger friend. It inspired a glimmer of courage within him. "Right. We can show them we're worth investing in. It's our story." With that, they sprinted toward the business district, the adrenaline pushing away doubts. The framework of their plan was in the making, and together, their dreams knitted tighter than ever. The meeting went ahead just a few days later in the town hall's sacred ground that echoed with the years of laughter and heartache, where decisions transformed lives. Townsfolk gathered, the energy electric as they prepared presentations celebrating their unity. The stage had become their canvas to paint over with dreams, hopes, and soul. When the meeting commenced, Ms. Rothschild was met with a kaleidoscope of talent. Timmy sang, sharing his heartfelt song, while older locals recited heartfelt skits. Ben took center stage, sharing a personal narrative filled with warmth and laughter, illuminating the heart of the community. Each performance wrapped around the crowd like sunshine, and the spirit of resilience glowed unabashedly. As each act took flight, Ben could see Ms. Rothschild's demeanor soften, her steel facade marred by kindling curiosity. "This isn't just a town," she remarked later, smiling gently, "it's a living entity." After the presentations ended, an excited buzz filled the air as hope fluttered like butterflies. All eyes turned to Ms. Rothschild, waiting for the verdict that hung suspended in time. "All right. Let us make this happen. You keep your identity, we'll work together to enhance it," she declared, commitment lacing her words. Cheers erupted, echoing through the town hall, a wave of relief crashing against all doubts. As Ben and Timmy joined Sarah amid the elated crowd, thrill coursed through every fiber of his being. "We did it!" Timmy shouted, jumping in glee. Ben hugged his friend tightly. "No, we did it!" In that moment, surrounded by familiar faces, he felt it a certainty that they had stood tall against a behemoth of corporate indifference. They had turned doubt into laughter and pulled every essence of their community into the light. "What'll our new future look like?" Timmy asked, excitement lighting his eyes. "Bright," Ben responded, staring out at all the faces in the now lively crowd. "We're going to raise the roof." The air crackled with laughter and a heartwarming urgency flooded the room, joy blooming like flowers in spring. Ben couldn't help but realize he had learned the most profound lesson: true progress came not from towering infrastructures or corporations alone, but from the stories and memories woven in laughter, love, and unity. And at that moment, Ben knew this was the turning point. Not just for his town, but for every little dreamer daring to dream. As they left the hall that night, arms around each other, Timmy chirped out yet another joke, laughter spilling into the night. "Why did the picture go to jail?" "Because it was framed." Ben couldn't help but guffaw, knowing the power of laughter and dream was their true triumph. Life was about to change forever, but they would blaze their own path, filled with heart. See, it was clear now, laughter would always be their shield. And as they strolled down the street, illuminated by the glow of dreams in full bloom, Ben understood one thing deeply: together, they were unstoppable. Now more than ever, they truly understood the magic of community. And that magic? It was worth fighting for. So, cherish laughter, spread joy, and never forget your dreams matter. This is the moment to remember: you can change everything forever. And to all of you watching, if you found inspiration in this journey, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Every moment counts. Stand with us, support this channel, and together, let us keep spreading love and laughter.